Hi, welcome to another video for biology. In this video I'm going to be highlighting the cellular respiration process. This video is an introduction to this process. This goes hand in hand with photosynthesis from the previous set of videos. Photosynthesis, you might remember, being a process of making a glucose molecule. In this process, we're going to be highlighting cellular respiration, how glucose molecules, the energy inside of a glucose molecule gets extracted. So just to kind of get a little bit of review, if we go back into the photosynthesis equation, you'll remember that there's three essential components that are needed. Okay, so you have carbon dioxide, you have water molecule, and then light, sunlight, right? So you have these three components that come together in the plant, and then you have a process that occurs, which is your light dependent and independent reactions. Okay, that's supposed to say independent right there, not dependent. Okay, so you have a process that produces glucose and oxygen, right? Okay, so now when you think of the cellular respiration equation, it's actually the same equation, it's just flipped backwards, okay, or flipped in reverse, okay? Where the human organism needs glucose and oxygen, right? We consume glucose via our food and we inspire oxygen, okay, and then we produce a waste product of carbon dioxide, water, and actually we don't produce sunlight, we produce ATP for work in the body. So again, furthering our review in thermodynamics, we have sunlight that gets converted to glucose, which then gets converted to plant material, the building blocks of plants, which can take different forms like fruit, okay? So I'm just going to use this, an apple for an example. These fruits have millions and millions of glucose molecules, this is what it looks like right here. Okay, quite convoluted, but all of these molecules are the same molecules that come in the water and carbon dioxide that or that plants take in. So the human organism will consume a plant, again, and these plants are made out of millions of these glucose molecules. These glucose molecules, which contain the energy that it was derived from the sun, right? The human body wants to extract this energy and repackage it into ATP molecules. And that's what this entire video series is about. That's what this whole story, if you will, is about. It's about converting the energy that was put into a glucose molecule, converting that energy into ATP molecules that the human body can use as work. And this process occurs in the human cell. Remember, you have trillions of cells in the human body. As you consume your food, your digestive system breaks down these foods, and then they get processed inside of the cell. Okay, so I'm looking inside of the cell here. Here's my phospholipid bilayer, okay, and then my cytoplasm, and that is where this process occurs in the cytoplasm. So if you go back to your cells, you remember that there's a lot of organelles inside of cells. Okay, we're going to be highlighting the mitochondria. This is the powerhouse of the human cell. This is where all the ATP, the energy, the vast majority of the ATP in your body is produced. So that glucose molecule that you consumed via your fruit, your breakfast, your lunch, or your dinner, that glucose molecule is too big to go into the mitochondria. Okay, in this video, I'm going to be highlighting the process. In this particular video right now, um, I'm going to be highlighting the process of how this large glucose molecule, okay, gets broken down into a smaller molecule called pyruvate, which is small enough to then enter the mitochondria. Okay, so again, let's take a peek at that glucose molecule. If you remember, it's a large molecule, pretty convoluted with the hydrogens and oxygens added onto it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of break it down and show that glucose molecule like this 6-carbon molecule. Okay, remember, this is still the same thing as this. For simplicity's sake, I've just, decided to symbolize it this way. So inside of the cytoplasm, okay, you're going to have a process called glycolysis. Okay, glycolysis meaning the breakdown of glucose. Okay, so before you break this glucose molecule down, before you extract the energy that's inside of in this molecule, you're first going to add energy, which is a little bit counterintuitive. But adding this additional energy, these two phosphate groups from the ATP, this is going to destabilize, further destabilize this molecule. So you notice the two phosphate groups at the end, and then this additional energy is going to again make it even more unstable, breaking it into two 3-carbon molecules. And it's actually going to break it up into a very familiar molecule. If you remember back to your Calvin cycle, okay, remember this guy, G3P, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate? So you have a very unstable G3P molecule, okay? And now you have an NAD. Now remember, NAD, if you go back to photosynthesis, you had NADP, right? And that was the more stable form of the molecule. This is a stable NAD molecule, which is coming to G3P to extract a high energy electron from it, okay? So this NAD is going to become, after it absorbs the electron, no, this is high energy electron, so that means this is unstable now. So this NADH is going now to your electron transport chain to drop off that high energy electron, which we'll address in a later video. So you'll notice another ADP molecule coming around, okay, and you guessed it, it's absorbing more ADP to become ATP. Now that ATP molecule can actually now go and get used by the human body for work. Something to keep in mind as you're thinking about this, ATP, once it gets used in a body for work, like in let's say a muscle cell, it goes back into being ADP, and then it goes back to the cell to be transformed to ATP. So that ADP ATP cycle, it keeps getting recycled in the body throughout the entire day. In fact, it's estimated that you use a human being that's doing average things throughout the day makes up about 90 pounds of ATP per day. And that's just, your casual everyday, not doing anything too strenuous. 90 pounds of ATP. Can you believe that? It's said that if your body stops producing ATP right now at this very second, okay, and you just stop producing ATP and you continue on with your normal activities, you would last about a minute. Okay, so these ATP molecules are constantly being recycled and doing work in the human body, anywhere from lifting a pencil to studying, to talking, to making videos, to lifting weights, jogging, running, walking, you name it. Okay, this process is essential in the human body. All right, so continuing on. So you have two ATP molecules that are produced from glycolysis, okay, and then you have water that's also extracted from glycolysis, and when that water leaves, when that oxygen and hydrogen molecules leave, that phosphorus molecule switches places from the 3-carbon to the 2-carbon, okay? All right, and you'll notice another ADP molecule coming to extract more energy. Yep, that's right. Okay, let's continue on. So your ATP molecule extracts more energy, right? And that creates what's called a pyruvate molecule. Now this pyruvate molecule is now small enough to go into your mitochondria. Okay, so we went from glucose to pyruvate, and that's been the whole goal of glycolysis, which actually is about a 12-step process, and each one of those steps has an individual enzyme that helps in breaking down glycolysis. But that's for another class. So just in summary, your glucose molecule is too large to go into your mitochondria. So it goes through a process to break it down into two 3-carbon molecules with a net production of 2 ATP and 2 NADHs, right? Okay, and then they go into the mitochondria, and I think I'll make a video, just a standalone video, just describing what the mitochondria is and its different components. So the mitochondria now takes this pyruvate, these 3-carbon molecules, and then it continues on in that process of further breaking it down and extracting that energy from it to produce more ATP. Okay, so that will lead us into the next video, which is pyruvate and the Krebs cycle. Okay, so again, that's cellular respiration, an introduction to it. Good luck in your studying.